being a man is. I had closer friendships with random women I met in the bathroom before I transitioned at clubs because of how open women are than I've had in my 8 years of transitioning.
One of the most fundamental lies that the woke ideology teaches, and honestly, once you hear this, you realize that there is something fundamentally wrong with the ideology, is that groups hold power. And in reality, it's individuals that hold power. But the woke believe that if Jeff Bezos holds power because he's one of the richest men in the world, and he happens to be cisgender, straight, white, male, and bald, then him holding power must mean that all the other cisgender, straight, white, bald men in the world share that power. But the reality is that Jeff Bezos himself holds power and he decides who he wants to share it with. And I do assume it's his family, circle of friends. But definitely not other people that happen to share his innate characteristics. But because of this, the woke do spread this misconception that just because you're a man, you share the power that other men have. And because there's more men that hold power, that every man must be like a king. They're privileged. They live in royalty. They snap their finger and immediately stuff happens. And if you deny this fact, they will say that, well, that's just your experience as a man. You're mansplaining. You do not know how it's like to be a woman. Now, there have been 2 cases that I'm aware of where women tried being men and then talked about their experiences, which were quite harrowing. Both women have been psychologically affected by the change. The first one happens to be a woman which has unfortunately passed away, but she was a feminist. Did a documentary where she pretended to be a man in order to see how men operate, how they talk with each other. And she really didn't like the findings. She was completely baffled by how different other women speak to her when she was trying to pass as a man. She found the experience to be unsettling because it was very difficult to form friendships. It was very difficult to navigate the world in the same way that she navigated when she was a woman. Now, the second case is about a trans man, which seems to echo the same sentiments that before transitioning, the lifestyle was completely different. They had more friends. They had more acquaintances. It was a lot easier to form these social interactions. And now things are different. And I'll just allow the person to speak so that you guys can make up your own mind.
Nobody told me how lonely being a man is. I had closer friendships with random women I met in the bathroom before I transitioned at clubs because of how open women are than I've had in my 8 years of transitioning. Because women are just so much more vulnerable and deep than men. But to have known, and I think a lot of trans men feel this, is we knew what depth felt like before we transitioned. We knew what it felt like to have people want to hug us. And to have people want to talk to us. And to have a community. And then you transition and you're just a guy walking down the street that people cross the street so that they're not near you. And friendships are so much harder to build. And people are colder. And what's hard is none of this invalidates how real and raw women and people who are in marginalized groups feel about cis white men.
I find it interesting that they have to go back to the ideology to third wave feminism and be, everything that I said doesn't invalidate the cisgender white, the patriarchy. But I mean, I don't like seeing this, to be honest. But what they are saying doesn't invalidate the experiences that we as men have. It's true, men do not just get appraisal simply for existing. Usually, as a man, you need to show your skill. You need to be good at something for people to want to talk to you, for people to want to approach you. Like, if you happen to be an important artist in a community that draws really well, then you're going to have people approaching and wanting to talk to you. If you happen to be a good singer, a good football player, a good doctor, like you need to show your skill in order to get into a place that very few people can get, and then you're going to get the recognition. The reality for women is obviously different. When they're young, especially up until the age of 25, 24, they get recognition just by existing. Especially if they're beautiful, if they know how to groom themselves and present themselves to the public, then you just, as the person said, you just walk into a bathroom and you form a friendship. It's easy, but the thing with women is that once that age passes, then it's not that society is colder to them, but you will not pretty much have people just walking up to you and wanting to be your friends. Like, you will have to work for that. You pretty much become like a man. But I guess like the change is gradual and it's slow. It's not a sudden change. It doesn't happen overnight. So you probably get used to the idea. You start understanding, okay, well, it's not like when I was a teenager and I could just walk into a group and everyone surrounded me and started asking me questions and wanted to be in my presence. Now things are different. Now people are treating me the same as everyone else. People are less likely to put up with my bullshit, so I need to be less of an asshole, because before I had big boobies and I was really gorgeous, and when I did bullshit, people were willing to overlook, but now not so much. So that's my point. Yeah, like there are differences between men and women, social differences, and this happens in every country all around the earth. But I wouldn't say like one gender has it better than the others. There's advantages, there's disadvantages. You can be a woman that isn't desirable, isn't attractive, and you're going to be less likely to have people that are going to go out of their way in order to please you. Alternatively, you can be a man that grows up in a wealthy family and has got all the advantages, and he's going to have an easy way in life. But my point is that this is what I found interesting. If you have a mother that has a daughter and a son, she's most likely going to tell her son at one point, you need to stop crying, you're older now. Meanwhile, she's not going to tell that to the daughter. She's going to tell to the son, you need to start taking responsibilities, you need to do this and this and that. But the whole idea is to create the level of stoicism, which is required for a man to survive in society. Because without that education, without that training, well, you end up with a person that seems to be very vulnerable and doesn't understand, how can you deal with society when they're treating you in a way that's very cold and they don't care about you. And you need that training that feminists hate, but you need that training when you're a kid. It's kind of like the same, like if you take a random person and you put them in a war zone. I mean, they're going to freeze. They're not going to know what to do. They're going to be shocked. But if you take a person and you put them through boot camp and they do the training and then they raise the ranks in the military and then they go into the war zone, they're going to actually perform. I'm not comparing a war zone with being in a society, but the thing is the same. Like, you need to get used to it. You need to have the training in order to be able to deal when you reach up the negative aspects of life. And yeah, I mean, everyone wants to be loved, everyone wants to be praised, everyone wants to be cherished. But unfortunately, being a man in almost every society, unless you prove that you have a skill, and unless you prove that you can do something that other people cannot, most people are going to ignore you. They're going to be cold towards you. They're not going to want to associate with you. And if you do not have the mindset for that, then you're going to have a nervous breakdown. And there is no solution. And it's also the fact that the training that I'm saying is not even harmful. Like feminists say it's harmful. As a man, I genuinely do not feel the need to cry unless there's a funeral, unless there's specific things. It doesn't help me. I genuinely do not feel the need. I do not feel the need to get a hug unless it's from my wife. It's something that is, I don't know. I mean, when I was a teenager, I guess, but when you grow up, it's yeah, sure, you can hug someone, but if I don't get the hugs, I'm not like, oh well, it's been 2 months and I haven't got one. What do I do? Right? So these are not necessities. They're not. How should I say? It would even be awkward in some cultures. It depends. Like in Russia, for example, men kiss each other on the cheek, but in other places, touching another man as a man is considered a big social taboo. It's kind of like when you have a shooter, an active shooter, and everyone is running away and you're going to hear the women screaming. Notice how the men aren't screaming. And they're not screaming not because like society tells them to, or it's just like they don't manifest themselves in that way. And, feminists would say that it's harmful somehow. It's like bottling up emotions means that it will explode somehow. I don't think that's the case. I don't think it's like in physics where if you have a pot that you cover it up and then it explodes. No, I genuinely do not think that's how it works. Just because you're stoic and you know how to be in control of your emotions and you know how to manifest yourself and not burst into tears or not burst into anger, right? So you're like mastering your personal emotion. I do not think that's harmful. I'm pretty sure like psychologists will disagree with me and whatnot, but I do think that's what it means to be an adult, and more importantly, what it is to be a man. But anyway, right, of course, not all men manage to do it, and the ones that don't have to suffer, because, being an emotional wreck is not good for you. That is something that's unhealthy. That is literally something that, like, not being able to control your emotions, and it's not just about crying. It's also about anger management. It's also about, like let's say you hear a joke that you're not supposed to laugh, and you manage to control yourself so you don't burst down laughing. Does that mean that it's harmful because, like someone says a racist joke and you're in the middle of a liberal campus and you're not going to laugh, right? Because you can get canceled. But if you don't laugh, is that harmful? Like, are you going to laugh later on, right? It's like the boiling pot theory that I don't believe. If you happen to like this video, do consider subscribing to my live stream. Yes, I do have a live stream channel, and if you scroll down into the comment section, you're going to see it there. And if for some reason you really love my channel, then there is a link to a subscribe star, which will take you to a place where you can get the best buyer's remorse on the internet, and you can also be a sponsor of this particular show. Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will find you in the comment section. Take care.